Hi, my name is Miranda Christner. This is my presentation on inclusive leadership focusing on race, class, gender equality. On the first part of the assignment, we were asked to find two articles that talked about inclusiveness in the leadership role. The first article that I came across was entitled Moving the Dial, Measuring Inclusive Leadership. It was written by Charlie Barlow for the Diversity Journal. This article really focused on what characteristics do inclusive leaders have. I found it interesting that he talked about that his journey to learn more about inclusive leadership talked about when he had a conversation with a woman that he had coached, and she came up to him after the season and said, I have never played for someone who included me the way that you did. And with him being a Caucasian man, didn't really understand what she was talking about. But she just stressed, you had included me in games and made her feel more involved and part of the team, and it wasn't based on race. So that's how he got started in learning more about inclusive leaders. Inclusive leaders, he stressed, was not a new idea. But and there's no really good way to assess inclusion and how leaders do that. He did talk about we talked about three aspects that he really firmly believed in, and he talked about the first thing he talked about was leading himself. He talked about that we leaders need to recognize that everyone has unique perspectives, their own views, their own backgrounds, and that may happens when students come into the classroom, but it also happens when leaders step into those leadership roles. So understanding your own beliefs. He talked about leading relationships. He talks about building great relations with others and encouraging others and wanting to enhance their development is something that inclusive leaders do. And they also build confidence by doing this. The last thing he talked about was leading the culture, is creating an environment where everyone feels safe. Everyone feels like that they are contributing members of the organization. I really like this article because of the things that it focused on. It talked again about inclusive leaders are members that have characteristics and differences that can enhance the organization. They focus on building relationships, encouraging others, and engage in diversity, recognizing that diversity is part of any organization and engaging and embracing it and using it for the positive. The next article that I talked about, or that I read, was entitled Six Signature Traits of Inclusive Leadership, and it was written by Bernadette Dillon and Juliet Mark. This was found online, and it was also part of a journal, thedewpress.com, actually, and it talked about the six traits, and the six traits that this article focused on was the first one was commitment. It talked about how inclusion leaders are committed, leaders are committed to diversity. And when they say committed to the diversity, that's understanding, again, like the first article was talking about, understanding your own perspectives, your own point of views. That's how you lead by you is understanding how you feel about certain things and what your biases are. It also talks about the next thing he talked about, one of the other signature traits, he talked about courage. He said that leaders speak up and challenge the status quo, and that they are humble about their strengths and weaknesses. And I think that's important for any leader, whether it be in any organization, is understanding what, as a leader, what are your strengths and what your weaknesses are, and then to build upon both of those, actually, or build upon your strengths. Also talked about challenging others is pretty much a really strong focus for inclusive leadership, and that it's under the courage that that sometimes you have to have the courage to try to challenge others, because sometimes not others don't want to be challenged. Understanding of your bias, that was the next one, is a highly inclusive leaders are mindful of personal and organizational bias, blind spots, things that may be within the organization that are not seen and they're behind the scenes, and being aware of those. I think that can just be personally just being aware of your surroundings, your staff, having those conversations, I think can eliminate some of those problems. He talked about communication under that is key to eliminate those biases. The next trait or next element he talked about was curiosity, and I thought this was kind of neat, is because to really show your desire as a leader to learn more, that however you may not know about that culture or the effects that culture has, is to really, if you're wanting to learn more and to have the curiosity to do so. It talked about listening attentively when another person is talking. It talked about engaging in respectful and curious dialogue. Talked about coping effectively with change, with an organization, members of the organization, and with the leaders. Sometimes that can be difficult, and really applying that curiosity and having that curiosity to just want to learn more. Culturally intelligent. This is intelligence. This is where I think a lot of leaders can be can be a weakness, is because if you were not raised in a diverse community, then this is something to where not knowing the different cultures and the roles that cultures play, this could be a very difficult one. It talked about in this one, it talked about seeking information, just the way cultures work, that if you have members of your organization, well, you will have members of your organization, that they all come from different cultures, and understanding their culture and to having, again, going back and having those conversations and learning more. Says take an active interest in learning about their cultures, seek out opportunities and experiences in different cultures, and like verbal. I know with some cultures, verbal, nonverbal cues are important. Eye contact. I've had experience with a student I had in kindergarten where I always wondered why he wouldn't give me eye contact. I'm like, you need to look at me when I'm talking to you. And now looking back, that was not part of their culture. Looking into your eye was showing disrespect. So, and as a new teacher and not culturally diverse, I did not know that. So understanding things like that and how that can come into play. The last one they talked about was collaboration, is that leaders empower individuals as well as create leverage the thinking of diverse groups. So having those collaborative groups, individuals working together that are learning about each other, a task, they have to come together, and a lot of times they could be using their culture experiences and backgrounds to solve the problem. And this could even be different genders. Men and women. It could be, like it said, it could be even about different socioeconomic status groups coming together, because again, those bring different experiences and backgrounds. It talked about have teams that are also diverse in thinking, and sometimes we just think culturally or race. We can talk about gender, but sometimes diverse thinking is different. We have someone that may not think outside of the box, maybe critical. This person's really good at critical thinking. This person's really good at concrete thinking. Even bringing those people together and forming teams to solving problems. Talked about commitment, is that within any organization, the inclusive leader needs to be committed. It talked about inclusive leaders prioritize their time, energy, and resources. Create the inclusive culture starts with the leader, and the leader understands they must model the change. Again, we talked courage. It said they have the courage to speak up. They can admit when they don't have all the answers. They acknowledge their strengths and weaknesses. Concepts of biases. Inclusive leaders have self-awareness of their own biases. They are aware that biases exist within the organization. They create an environment of fair play. Curiosity. Inclusive leaders accept their limitations and are open to new ideas of others. They ask questions of others and actively listen to others, respecting others' opinions, and try to learn something new from others. I really like this quote here. It says, around here, we don't look backwards for very long. We keep moving forward, opening up new doors and new things, because we are curious, and curiosity keeps leading. I really like that quote, because I think that's with anything, is that we're opening new doors because we're curious, and sometimes just opening the doors to understand each other. It talked about culturally intelligent. Inclusive leaders want to deepen their understanding and learn more. They value cultural differences. They're aware of the differences and can adapt to those situations. Working together, inclusive leaders understand that in order for collaboration to happen, others must be willing to share their diverse perspectives. And sometimes that can be difficult, especially if it's not a safe environment. Diversity is thinking is critical. People are more collaborative when they feel safe. Talked about the part 2 was the 5 practices of leadership. Within the textbook that this course laid out for us, it talked about those five. The first one was model the way. It says, be clear about your own principles, be consistent, lead by example, value diversity among your organization and its members. When I look at model the way as one of the five practices, I can really reflect back to those articles where they both focused on leading by example. Inspire to share vision, don't command, inspire. As a team, set goals and organization visions. Inspire innovative thinking, diverse thinking. And again, the article, The 6 Signature Traits of Inclusive Leadership, really did talk about those, inspiring others, and diverse thinking and appreciation for diversity. Challenge the process. Another one of the 5 principles, they seek out new ideas. Leaders listen to new ideas and are willing to take a chance. They take risks for the organization and are willing to fail. And I think sometimes that's really difficult as leaders because we feel like if we fail, it's a weakness, and actually it's not. It's a learning experience. Enables others to act. Create a team with strong relationships and commitment. Foster collaboration among team members. Inclusive leaders build a strong, trusting environment. They focus on the needs of the team. And in those articles, they did talk about collaboration. They talked about commitment, focusing on team, working together. Encourage the heart. Team members need to be recognized for their efforts and dedication to the organization. Leaders show appreciation for individual and team efforts. The inclusive leader create a culture of celebrating values of the community. When you have those celebrations, celebrate what people are doing, whether it be big or small. Let those teammates or those members know that you recognize their efforts and their contributions to the organization. How can leaders use this information? You need to understand, I really got out of this, that you need to understand your own beliefs and values. They need to learn more about your staff members, and inclusive leaders model by example. Teachers as leaders. When reading the article in the text on leadership, there are many traits that we ask teachers and our leadership. A lot of things that we ask teachers to do are leadership traits. As teachers, we are leaders and models within the classroom. Many of the tasks given to students we model. We model correct behavior and foster diversity. We develop and encourage collaboration among students. Teachers are open to new ideas and implement new strategies that are beneficial for students. So I found it kind of interesting that all of these 2 articles, along with the textbook, a lot of the things we do, or I do as a classroom teacher, could be considered inclusive leadership, but sometimes when we think of leadership, we think of building principal or superintendent. However, we are leaders with our own. I am a leader within my own classroom, so this is definitely a model that I can take back and use in the classroom. Challenges. These are some challenges that I think that with inclusive leadership, and one of those is leaders' values and beliefs. I think that sometimes depending on our own backgrounds, we come with our own beliefs and values, and we really need to open up our mind to understand other cultures and other values that of members that we're going to be working with. Having others follow. I think that sometimes that's a weakness if you're not strong in what you're doing, or you don't feel, actually don't want to say strong, let's say confident in what you're doing. Having others follow and hoping that you're leading on the right path can sometimes be scary. It takes time and knowledge. Have to be knowledgeable on what you're doing when regarding to race, socioeconomic status. You need to understand those experiences, and being consistent. What I learned, leadership is another element to the team. The leader works with the team to achieve the common goal. According to the authors of the book, it says set the example. It starts with setting an example for the members of the organization. Celebrate. Inclusive leaders celebrate and show appreciation for values within the organization. Kind of to sum this up, I says, for me, an organization will only be as strong as a leader. They will set the example and culture. The articles, along with the text, gave the same information, just in kind of a different perspective. Leadership takes knowledge, commitment, and courage. Thanks.